The Cipher of Terror, the Zodiac Killer. The story of the Zodiac Killer is not merely a tale of murder, but a relentless, chilling war waged by a solitary mind against the combined intellect of law enforcement and the public imagination. It is a terrifying saga defined by arrogance, cryptic codes, and an almost supernatural ability to vanish into the anonymity of Northern California. His reign of terror began in the late 1960s, specifically with the attack at Lake Herman Road in Berryessa on the cold night of December 20th, 1968. The victims, high school sweethearts David Faraday and Betty Lou Jensen, were murdered execution-style beside their parked car. The act was sudden, brutal, and seemingly random, failing to draw the immediate media frenzy that would soon define the case. Yet it was the necessary prelude, the silent opening to a symphony of psychological torment. 6 months later, the terror escalated into a personal challenge. On July 4th, 1969, the killer struck again at Blue Rock Springs Park in Vallejo, attacking Darlene Ferring and Michael Magot. Ferring died, but Magot survived, offering the first crucial, albeit hazy, description of the killer. What followed was unprecedented. A phone call made minutes after the attack, where the killer calmly reported the crime, providing the locations and even the caliber of the weapon used. This was the moment the Zodiac Killer announced himself, turning murder into a broadcast, a media event designed to maximize fear. The psychological profile began to take shape, intelligent, methodical, and possessed of a profound need for recognition and control. The critical shift, however, came with the first set of letters sent to 3 Bay Area newspapers, the Vallejo Times-Herald, the San Francisco Chronicle, and the San Francisco Examiner, demanding their publication under threat of further murder. These letters were accompanied by the first of his complex ciphers, the cryptic codes that would define his persona. The first cipher, the 408 symbol cipher, was a scrambled message in which he claimed responsibility for the murders and provided a terrifying rationale. He was collecting slaves for the afterlife. This boastful, almost fantastical motive added a layer of bizarre fascination to the brutality. The successful cracking of the 408 cipher by a high school teacher and his wife, Donald and Betty Harden, within days of its publication, provided a momentary victory for the public, but it was short-lived. The cipher, once decoded, lacked any identifying information, leaving the mystery of the killer's identity untouched. The police, particularly in San Francisco and Vallejo, found themselves overwhelmed not just by the violence, but by the relentless psychological game the killer was playing. He was a master of media manipulation, using the newspapers as his personal microphone, dictating the tempo of the investigation, and sowing discord among the various police jurisdictions. The attacks were designed to be both random and highly personal, making the search for a coherent motive impossible. The introduction of the cipher added a cerebral element, suggesting a killer who viewed his crimes as an intellectual challenge, a puzzle presented to the world. The early days of the Zodiac Killer were marked by a rapid escalation from simple homicide to outright narcissistic confrontation with society, all wrapped in a terrifyingly sophisticated package of misdirection and coded language. The Bay Area, known for its counterculture and innovation, found itself gripped by a unique form of terror, a brilliant, unseen enemy who communicated only through newspaper ink and mathematical symbols. The first cipher was cracked, but the killer remains free. If you are intrigued by the psychological game of the hunt, be sure to subscribe for a deep dive into the Zodiac's most brazen attacks. The summer and fall of 1969 saw the Zodiac Killer shift his methods from drive-by shootings to more intimate, brazen attacks, simultaneously intensifying his taunting campaign against the police and the press. This phase of his reign established his notoriety and revealed his chilling control over the investigation's narrative. The third attack occurred on September 27, 1969, at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. This time, the killer used a disguise, a black executioner-style hood with clip-on sunglasses, and a knife and rope, showcasing a terrifying premeditation and theatrical flair. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard, a couple picnicking by the lake, were brutally tied up and stabbed multiple times. Shepard died 2 days later, but Hartnell survived, providing another crucial witness account of the killer's chilling calm. Immediately following the attack, the Zodiac drove to a payphone a few miles away, carving the attack details along with the dates of the previous 2 incidents into the car door of one of his victims before placing another taunting call to the Napa Police Department. The audacity of the Lake Berryessa attack, the ritualistic dressing, the intimate violence, and the immediate call was a clear escalation. It demonstrated a killer whose confidence was rapidly approaching megalomania, secure in the belief that he was untouchable. This brazenness was only matched by his literary output. The letters flowed in a steady, unsettling stream. They contained threats to bomb school buses, mocking drawings of the police, and increasingly arrogant statements about his superiority. He began to claim an astronomical body count, far beyond the official 5 confirmed victims, bragging about how the police would never catch him because he changed his disguise and method constantly. The infamous Zodiac sign, a crossed circle, became his personal brand, a terrifying logo scrawled on the letters and even into the car door at Lake Berryessa. The sheer volume and insolence of the communications were a deliberate form of psychological warfare against the lead investigators, most notably Detective Dave Toschi of the San Francisco Police Department, SFPD, and Sergeant Jack Mulanax of the Vallejo Police Department. Toschi, with his distinctive look and high-profile role, became a particular target of the Zodiac's mockery in the letters. Perhaps the most significant piece of communication from this period was the 340-symbol cipher. Sent to the San Francisco Chronicle in November 1969, this cipher proved far more complex than the first. Its difficulty, combined with its promise to reveal the killer's identity or motive, became an international obsession. Unlike the 408 cipher, the 340-symbol cipher resisted all contemporary attempts at cracking. It stood as a silent, mocking monument to the killer's intellectual superiority for over 50 years. The final confirmed attack, and the one that brought the killer to the heart of San Francisco, occurred on October 11, 1969, when cab driver Paul Stine was shot in the head in the affluent Presidio Heights neighborhood. This murder broke the pattern, involving a male victim and taking place in an urban setting. Crucially, the killer was spotted by 3 teenagers just minutes after the murder, who initially mistook him for a distressed civilian, allowing him to walk away. The Zodiac later sent a piece of Stine's bloodied shirt to the Chronicle, proving his involvement and terrifying the city. This attack confirmed that the Zodiac was willing to strike anywhere, anytime, adding another layer of fear to the Bay Area's already fragile psyche. The cipher remains unbroken, a challenge to the world's greatest minds. If you want to witness the pursuit of the few suspects who stood in the killer's shadow, subscribe now. The intense media coverage and the chilling arrogance of the Zodiac Killer pushed law enforcement to its limits, resulting in a fractured, multi-jurisdictional investigation that was constantly hampered by the killer's psychological games and a frustrating lack of forensic technology. As the letters continued, fewer containing explicit threats, but more filled with philosophical rants and demands for attention, the focus shifted from catching the killer in the act to identifying the man behind the cipher. Despite countless hours of police work, dozens of suspects, and hundreds of tips, the killer remained the unseen man. Several key suspects emerged over the years, each one fitting parts of the cryptic profile, but none conclusively tied to the crimes. The most famous and enduring suspect is Arthur Lee Allen. A convicted child molester and known eccentric, Allen was first questioned in 1971. He owned a car and clothing that matched witness descriptions, worked in the Vallejo area, and had a known interest in ciphers and the Zodiac name. His disturbing demeanor and circumstantial evidence made him the prime suspect for Detective Toshi and others. However, handwriting analysis, while sometimes suggestive, never definitively matched Allen to the Zodiac's unique scrawl. Furthermore, fingerprints found at the Stine crime scene never matched Allen's. He remains the most compelling yet unproven candidate, the man who was perhaps one technological advancement away from conviction. Another significant suspect was Rick Marshall, a man with a military background, an interest in science fiction, and a documented history of threatening behavior. His appearance was consistent with some of the composite sketches, and certain linguistic patterns in his speech allegedly mirrored the tone of the Zodiac letters. However, like Allen, the evidence against him remained frustratingly circumstantial, never quite closing the gap between suspicion and proof. The investigation was plagued by fundamental challenges. The lack of standardized DNA testing and fingerprint technology in the late 60s meant that crucial evidence, like the saliva on stamps or the hair found in Stine's cab, could not yield the answers required for a conviction. The police relied heavily on handwriting analysis, a notoriously subjective science, and flawed eyewitness testimony, often gathered under chaotic circumstances. The cold case continued to attract dedicated amateur sleuths and professional cryptographers, all focused on the one element the killer was most proud of, the challenge. The breakthrough came not from a government agency, but from a collaboration of civilian codebreakers. In December 2020, over 51 years after it was mailed, the 340-symbol cipher was finally solved by an international team: David Orenchak, Sam Blake, and Jarl van Eyck. The message was revealed to be another arrogant, taunting rant, devoid of any identifying details, but chillingly confirming the killer's pathology. The decoded message read, in part, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner, because I now have enough slaves to work for me, where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid to die. I am not afraid because I know my new life is an easy one in paradise death." The solution to the 340 cipher was a technological and intellectual triumph, but a practical disappointment. It confirmed the killer's bizarre motive, the collection of slaves for the afterlife, but offered no fresh leads or names. The killer's arrogance had been justified. He built his. The chilling crossed circle sign stands today as a symbol of the unanswered question, the ultimate triumph of the predator over the hunter. The cipher has been solved, but the man remains free in the annals of history. Thank you for following this intense journey into the heart of the Zodiac mystery. If this deep dive into one of history's great unsolved cases has captured your imagination, please give this a like. Follow the channel for more explorations into the cryptic and the somber, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new series or investigation.